Good evening, everyone, and good afternoon to you, Omotola. And welcome on behalf of the Parkinson's Disease and Movement Disorder Society, which is an all India charitable society. I welcome one and all for our webinar today. And before we introduce our very inspiring and motivational speakers for today, I just like to show you a video on the PDMDS and the work that the PDMDS has been doing. So please watch. think most of you all present here today have been part of our PDMDS journey, and we hope to reach out to more people with Parkinson's. And I would now like to welcome the brain behind the PDMDS model of care, Dr. Maria Barreto, to please introduce our speakers for today.
Thank you, Nicole. Omotola and Shanthipriya. It is such an honor to welcome you today on behalf of Dr. B.S. Singhal, our PDMDS team, and all the participants at today's webinar. I have admired both of you and avidly follow your inspiring lives and the hope you bring to young people living with Parkinson's through your lives and the work and programs towards this cause. Omotola Thomas is the founder of Parkinsons Africa, an organization dedicated to empowering Africans affected by Parkinson's disease. Omotola is currently serving as a board member for the World Parkinson's Coalition, a patient advocate for the International Parkinson's Disease Genomics Consortium, a patient's advisory group member for the Community for Research Involvement and Support for People with Parkinson's at King's Hospital, and an ambassador for the 6th World Parkinson's Congress to be held in Barcelona in 2022. She is also the founding member of PD Avengers, an international group of advocates determined to end Parkinson's. She is a writer, speaker, and visual storyteller, and created a blog, Parkinstand, to chronicle parts of her journey with Parkinson's disease. She volunteers extensively for Parkinson's-related causes and charities. Some of those activities have included participating in policy roundtable discussions at the European Union Parliament in Brussels, speaking at a pharmaceutical company to enlighten clinicians, researchers, and scientists on the realities of living with Parkinson's, securing funding for the purchase of Cinemit for over 100 Nigerian and Ghanaian Parkinson's patients, organizing Parkinson's conferences, and running various Parkinson's awareness and fundraising campaigns. Dr. Shanthipriya is a consultant ophthalmologist by profession, writer, model, a self-taught artist, a fitness enthusiast, a young onset Parkinson's warrior for 10 years, diagnosed at the age of 38. Her mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive, and to do so with some passion, some compassion, and some humor and style. In 2019, she founded SAAB Foundation, an NGO to make a difference in the life of a person with Parkinson's, a holistic approach to living well with Parkinson's. SAAB is an acronym for the 4 pillars upon which all of SAAB's activities will be based. Support, create a support ecosystem for people with neurological conditions. Awareness, conduct awareness programs for people with Parkinson's and caregivers. Action, to influence action and rally support to achieve SAAB's objectives. Rehabilitation, to build a state-of-the-art neurological rehabilitation center. Omotola, as I read in your post this morning, through this webinar, you hope to strike the delicate balance between truth-telling and inspiring hope. And we look forward to this sharing from Shanthipriya and you. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Barreto. And on that note, I think all of us are very excited to hear more from our speakers today. So if I could request Omotola Thomas to please share your PowerPoint and take the stage.
One second. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Barreto, for that wonderful introduction. Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Omotola Thomas. I have young onset Parkinson's disease, and I'm really, truly excited to be here today. As Dr. Barreto said, I'm hoping to be able to strike a delicate balance between talking about the challenges that I have faced and I continue to face with young onset Parkinson's disease, and also being able to give a message of hope. I want to start by saying thank you to the organizers, the PDMDS, for putting together this very important program and for giving me the opportunity to speak. Over the last 2 years or so, I've spent a lot of my time speaking about Parkinson's disease in Africa. I was born and raised in Nigeria. So it's something it's a cause that's very important to me and that I'm very passionate about. But I'm also someone with young onset Parkinson's disease. So this is also an area that I haven't gotten much of an opportunity to speak on, but I'm actually really, really happy and excited to be talking about that today. Today, like I said, I'll be speaking about my journey with young onset Parkinson's, and particularly I'm going to try to talk you through the coping mechanisms that I have adopted along the way that have helped me to live well. And as they mentioned about Dr. Shanthipriya, to also try to thrive in spite of the challenges of this illness. So perspective and resilience, these are the two building blocks of my coping mechanisms when it comes to dealing with young onset Parkinson's disease. What I hope to do in the next 15, 20 minutes or so today is to be able to communicate to you how I have learned to shift my perspective and how I have taught myself, or how I've learned to build a resilient mindset. What I'm hoping not to do is I'm hoping not to give you the impression that this is something that I practice 100% of the time or something that I'm perfect in. It's an iterative process that I have learned to continue to adapt to throughout my journey. So perspective. Perspective is very simply how you see things. I am generally a glass half full type of person. I tend to try to look at things from the positive side. And as we go through this presentation, I'm hopeful that you will see how that has helped me on my journey with young onset Parkinson's. It's important that I make a note here that having hope and being positive and optimistic is not being delusional. I am very much aware of the challenges that come with young onset, but I choose to focus my energy, I choose to focus my time, I choose to focus myself on the positive side of things that bring hope. Now, what is resilience? For me, there are many different definitions of resilience. I have coined resilience as the art of doing whatever it takes, whether that means adjusting, adapting, shifting, reassessing, reevaluating, whatever it takes for you to, during difficult periods, the art of doing that so as not to quit. Sometimes I have learned that requires relying on your own strength. Many times it requires relying on the love, the care, and the strength of others. Now, are some people born more resilient than others? I don't know the answer to that question, but I do know that resilience is something that can be taught. For me, it started with my belief system. It started with what I believed about myself. It started with what I believed about my abilities. It started with what I believed about my future. I can't tell you whether or not I was born resilient, but I can tell you when for a fact I know that I started to learn this art of resilience. And it was during the process of my diagnosis. I got diagnosed in in 2016, and my symptoms started in 2010. Those were 6 long years that it took for me to get a diagnosis. It was a long and complex journey. I remember I started with a tremor in my right hand, and I saw so many different doctors. I had so many different tests done. I had more blood work and brain scans than I think anyone should have to go through. And I reached so many dead ends during this journey. It was a particularly frustrating experience, getting one test result after the other, being negative, not knowing what was going on. All the while, it felt like my body was literally falling apart into pieces. I would have one symptom today, tremors, then rigidity, then stiffness. It was a very difficult time for me. However, in hindsight, when I look at that period, it gave me an unexpected advantage because I had 6 long years because the journey took 6 long years to try to figure out what was going on with me. I had enough time to actually contemplate having Parkinson's disease. I had enough time to come to terms with the possibility that I might have Parkinson's disease. Not only that, going through the internet and putting in my symptoms, it became very obvious to me that I had Parkinson's disease, even though none of the doctors I had seen doctors in America because I was living there at the time. Between when my symptoms started and when I got diagnosed, I had moved to South Africa and eventually moved to England. So none of the doctors in any of those regions, not until my 5th year, had mentioned Parkinson's disease, but from the internet, I figured that that's what I had. And so when I self-diagnosed myself with Parkinson's disease, this long period gave me the time to go through effectively the grieving process, of the grief process of having Parkinson's disease, all the way to getting to a point where I accepted that this was probably what I had. And once that happened, subconsciously, I started to develop coping strategies. And what do I mean by that? I started to believe in myself. Throughout the process, I started to look at myself as having the ability to go through this illness. I started to believe that I could actually do it. And I guess one may ask, like, what are the things that helped shape my mindset? What made me get to a stage where I could look at myself in the mirror and say, on the outside, I may look like the small little kitten that you see in this slide, but on the inside, I genuinely felt like I had the power and the ability to overcome whatever it was that life brought my way. And I attribute that to a few things. Throughout those 6 years, I remember inundating myself with inspirational books, inspirational podcasts and audio, surrounding myself with positive people. Constantly, I bombarded my mind, my eyes, my ears with positive messages that told me, yes, yes, you can. I didn't realize it at the time. This was not something that I was doing consciously, but I was building a resilient mindset such that by the time I actually got diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, it felt like I didn't really have a choice in the matter. My body's natural response, because of how much I had put into my mind, into trying to shape my mind and to develop my mind, it felt like my body's natural response to adversity, to trials, to difficulties was resilience. And that resilience is what has helped me throughout my journey, and it continues to help me. And particularly when I started experiencing a lot of challenges with young onset Parkinson's disease, some of which I'll speak about shortly. that mindset was what helped me eventually come out of that. So, what are these challenges? When I got diagnosed, my doctor sat me down. He seemed very empathetic, and he seemed sorry to be giving me the diagnosis of Parkinson's disease at such a young age. I was 35 at the time, and he told me that I would experience motor symptoms. He told me that I would experience tremors, rigidity, stiffness, slowness of movement, and possibly postural instability. So I was prepared for that. I was prepared to have difficulties walking. I was prepared for my tremors to get worse, which they have. I was prepared to get more stiff. I was prepared to have trouble walking. I expected that with time, I would have difficulties buttoning my sweater, tying my shoelaces. I knew that all these things would be difficult. I'm not trying to say that they weren't, but I was prepared for them. What I was not prepared for, what I wasn't told about, were the non-motor symptoms that I would experience. I literally felt like somebody pulled the rugs from under my feet when I started experiencing apathy, depression, anxiety, pain, fatigue. All these symptoms started coming one after the other. And it was first of all, I didn't even really understand what was going on, particularly when it came to anxiety and depression. I didn't understand why I was experiencing these things. But I think even more than that, not only was I not prepared to experience these symptoms, I was not prepared for the significant impact that these symptoms would have on myself, on my role as a wife and a mother. My children were 9 and 7 at the time I got diagnosed, and on my relationships with my extended family and with my friends. I'll give you an example. For a long time, I had absolutely no interest in attending my children's games or participating in their school activities or even doing anything at home because of apathy. But I didn't understand what was going on then. And then to make matters worse, when I found the strength to overcome the apathy, then I would experience cognitive challenges in terms of trying to even coordinate my tasks together. And if by some stroke of luck, I was able to overcome apathy and the cognitive challenges, then pain and fatigue will come in and just make me not even want to bother trying to do all the things that I needed to do. This was a very, very difficult period for me. I struggled because I felt alone. I struggled because I felt misunderstood. I struggled because it was very, very frustrating. And I think the biggest struggle for me was feeling wholly and completely inadequate. As difficult as my tremors are, and they're very, very difficult for me sometimes, they distract me when I'm speaking. And aesthetically, it's something that people stare at you and just wonder what's going on with her. As difficult as they are to deal with, they pale in comparison to the feelings of inadequacy that I experienced. And for a long time, I was in this, I'm not sure if I should call it a hole, but in this space where I didn't know what to do. So how did I get out of it? I don't know if you remember a few slides before, I talked about resilience and how I had gotten into the habit in the years before of bombarding my mind with positive messages, with audio, reading books, reading quotes, surrounding myself with people who kept telling me, yes, you can, and how that somehow became my body's natural response to difficulty. somehow that kicked in. And I started to remember that I had what it took to be able to overcome these challenges. And my resilient mindset started to kick in again. Now, for me, like I mentioned earlier, sometimes resilience means digging deep down into yourself and finding the strength that you need to pull yourself out of a rut. That wasn't going to work here. I had no strength. I was apathetic. I was depressed. I was anxious. I was tired. But sometimes resilience just means doing whatever it takes. And for me, in this period, it meant crying out and reaching for help. And that's what I did. I spoke to my family members. I spoke to professionals. I sought counseling. And I had a team of people who I'm very fortunate were able to help me get me out of the rut that I had found myself in. So in conclusion, what I'd like to let you know is that it all starts, like I said earlier, with believing in yourself, believing that you have the ability to cope. It may sound so simplistic, but for me, genuinely and sincerely, that is that mindset, that positive mindset, that perspective of seeing possibilities in pain, of seeing opportunities in adversity, and of just refusing, deciding in your heart that you will do whatever it takes to adapt to whatever situation that life brings you. That is what has helped me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Omotola, for that very honest recount of your experiences. And I think a lot of people in India with young onset Parkinson's as well can definitely relate. And I think it gave them a sense of they're not alone, because sometimes you wonder whether people with young onset Parkinson's in India are different from someone in the UK, which is a developed country, and they get more access to doctors and greater tests. And I think your honesty actually will help a lot of people believe in themselves and use the tips that you spoke about: resilience, self-belief, getting the right care team to help you in tough times. So thank you so much for sharing your experiences today.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Shanthipriya, if we could have you next, I'll share your screen.
I thank Dr. Maria for the wonderful introduction. And I thank PDMDS Society Mumbai, Nicole Shania, for inviting me for today's session. And as Omotola told, it's not that you're not born with resilience. You develop resilience as you face challenges. And I'm Dr. Shanthipriya. I'm a consultant ophthalmologist. I'm a self-taught artist, writer, poet, model, actor, and I'm proud to call myself as a young onset Parkinson's disease warrior since 10 years. Next slide, please. Each person's journey is unique as their Parkinson's. And my story is the same. It's been a bumpy journey with lots of ups and downs. The trick is to enjoy the ups and face the downs with courage. Next slide. Early 2011, loss of swing movement of my right upper arm was noticed by my son and husband. We first joked that it is maybe due to carrying of my handbags. I had a fetish for handbags at that time. And then I ignored it. Then one day after the gym, I was not able to wear my slippers on the right side. That was when I took it seriously. And I first went to an orthopedician, even though being a doctor, Parkinson's was the last thing on my mind. So we went to an orthopedician who did all the tests and said everything is fine. And he referred me to a neurologist. And the neurologist told me that you take these tablets, if you're fine, you have Parkinson's. Even that time, it never struck me that I have Parkinson's. I went into a stage of denial. Everybody goes through when any adversity is forced onto them, you go into a period of denial because you don't want that. Then we went to another neurologist who gave me the same diagnosis of Young Onset Parkinson's, and another, almost 4 neurologists before it set into me that I have Parkinson's. Because even though being a medical doctor, I thought it was only an old man's disease, only above 60. Next slide, please. Then I started reading a lot about Parkinson's in detail, and people with young onset Parkinson's like Michael J. Fox, Muhammad Ali, and Davis Finney. All their stories inspired me, and I slowly started accepting the fact that I had young onset Parkinson's. Next slide, please. Then I read that exercise is one thing which will delay the progression of the disease. So I started doing a lot of different types of exercises like high intensity interval training, spinning, Zumba dancing, whatever I could hold my hands on. And I dedicated almost 1 hour each day, every single day. And it really helped to cope up with the disease, both mentally and physically, because it's a natural way of release of dopamine, more dopamine. My main symptoms were slowness of movement, stiffness, rigidity, and I used to develop dystonia, which is painful spasms of the body, of parts of the body, especially the limbs. And that used to trouble me a lot. Next slide, please. Then to early 2018, that was a turning point in my life. I stumbled upon the opportunity to take part in a pageant for married women, Mrs. Internations, held at Singapore. I just took part to show that Parkinson's can never define me. It was really difficult because it was not my comfort zone. As Omotola told, I had to fight fatigue, my gait. I had to put in a lot of effort. I had to learn ramp walking. I had to wear high heels. And but it was during the making of the video for the pageant, the introduction video, that I told the whole world that I have young onset Parkinson's. That was the time of my complete acceptance of the disease. I felt like my weight off my shoulders, a burden off my shoulders. So first, when you have any adversity, like Parkinson's in our case, first you need to accept the disease fully. So it took 7 years to accept it. But after accepting, I was able to live well with it. Next slide, please. And when I came down from Singapore, I realized my purpose here. So I first started my Instagram handle, Shake Off and Move On. And then in April 2019, April 7th, I started my foundation, SAAB Foundation, which is based upon the acronym Support, Awareness, Action, and Rehabilitate People with Parkinson's to lead a better quality of life through active lifestyle. The main objectives of the foundation is to spread awareness. We conduct workshops on how to live well with the disease, like yoga, tai chi, exercises pertaining to the symptoms. We started my inauguration with a massive walkathon. Next slide, please. First, we thought that because the awareness is so poor in India, especially in South India, nobody knew what is Parkinson's. And maybe people used to ask me, you don't even look like a person with Parkinson's. As Omotola said, there are a lot of non-motor symptoms which is invisible. So we expected only 300 people, but more than 1,000 people joined the walkathon. So I was happy that there is a little bit of awareness, but still the social stigma still is there. And my main objective is to start a neuro rehabilitation center, which will help people with Parkinson's and other neurological conditions. And I'm in the process of developing adaptive clothing for people with neurological conditions, and in the process of developing aids for people with Parkinson's. Next slide, please. So as I was in 8-9 years down the lane, I started developing a lot of side effects of the medications. I used to, my medicines never worked well, lot of motor fluctuations, a lot of dyskinesias, which is a known side effect of syndopa. So I underwent deep brain stimulation on 30th November 2019. After that, my quality of life has improved a lot. After that, I've not had a single day of dystonia. But there are good days and bad days even now, on and off periods, but definitely my quality of life has improved. Next slide, please. And June 2019, I first came across this World Parkinson's Coalition, and I thought I should attend that. So that when I attended that World Parkinson's Coalition at Kyoto, Japan, I was able to meet a lot of people with Parkinson's, young onset Parkinson's, and gave me the opportunity to be a global patient advocate. Next slide, please. I feel with any adversity, you need to follow your passion, follow your heart. Then I started developing interest in painting. I'm a self-taught artist too. I recently held an exhibition. Next slide. Recently held an exhibition at a gallery in Chennai, just to show that nothing can stop people with Parkinson's to do what they love. They need to follow what their passion, they follow their heart. And when they do what they like, naturally your dopamine is released, your symptoms are better, your non-motor symptoms get better. And I released my book of verses and art on the same day, which is called Metamorphosis, based upon the metaphor when the caterpillar turned into a butterfly. When the caterpillar thought it was the end of the world, she turned into a butterfly. That's my story. You can definitely live well with Parkinson's. You need to just a few lifestyle modifications, adaptations. First is acceptance. Exercise is very important. And do what you love. Follow your heart, follow your passion. And don't take the known path. Take the untraveled path and leave a trail. Next slide. Next slide. Shake off and move on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shanthipriya, for sharing that. And I'm amazed at the number of things you have achieved post your diagnosis with Parkinson's, from beauty pageants to art to setting up a foundation. It's really inspiring, and And really, I think a lot of our members as well from our Young Onset program can also relate about this creativity which has come post being diagnosed with Parkinson's. So thank you so much for sharing. Before we take some questions from the audience, I'd just like to share a little bit about the Young Onset program that the Parkinson's Society has. Sorry. Just for those of you all who are new to us, to our organization, the Parkinson's Disease and Movement Disorder Society is an all India charitable society working towards improving the lives of people with Parkinson's and their families in India. We have a special program for young onset Parkinson's, the YOPD program, with the main aims of the program being to provide a platform for young people with Parkinson's to interact with each other and share their experiences. As you will see that a lot of the experiences are very similar. We also aim to provide a holistic approach to management of young onset Parkinson's and provide professional support. We also think it's very important in India to raise awareness about young onset Parkinson's, not only at the government level, but corporate and community level as well. And we really strive to understand what the challenges are that young people with Parkinson's face in India and design programs that can help in addressing these issues. So we initiated the Power Pact group, the term was coined by one of our young onset members. And we started in 2018 in Mumbai, where we had sessions in person once a month. Because of the pandemic, we had to shift to online sessions. And now we in fact have weekly online sessions with people from all over India. And the benefits of the online program have been that people don't require to now travel. I know sometimes with young onset, managing the off period and travel was hard. We could connect with people from all over India, young onset people from all over India. They could access it via their phone or their computer and, at any place. And it was also important that the online group gave people privacy, especially those who were still new to the diagnosis and were still in the process of accepting. And what do we do at these weekly online sessions? So we do focus on therapy. So we do different types of exercises like Tai Chi, yoga, LSVT, big, aerobics, dance, movement and rhythm. We focus on cognitive exercises and sometimes do cognitive and physical exercises together. We work on mindfulness, dealing with depression and anxiety, attention and memory strategies, sleep hygiene, and lots of different therapeutic topics. What we also focus on and we think is very important is educational discussions, whether it's regarding medication or mental health issues or rights of a person with Parkinson's, financial planning, domestic and workplace issues. So that's something that we do a lot as well. We also conduct webinars and special sessions with external resource people like today, where we invite occupational therapists, speech therapists, counselors, dance therapists to give us more insight and help young people with Parkinson's. And the highlights of our program is that it is a program which is guided by the needs of the people who attend the program. We focus on creating support systems, sharing of personal experiences. We also provide individual counseling and access to therapists. And also our aim is to make people young onset ambassadors. And if you can see some of the comments from people who have attended the group, and they feel that the Young Onset program is a family where people listen to their needs and listen to them. Sometimes even when it's difficult to share, sharing with other people in the group helps them to relieve the stress that they have. And it's also a group which helps them to stay positive. So these are just some of our ambassadors who have been being active, very active on social media, in telling people about young onset Parkinson's and showing their creative skills. We have Uma and Gulshan and Rajendra here. We also have certain people like Anupam and Sunil who have been sharing on other platforms like social media, and a lot of other people who in their small way is really trying to make a difference and raise awareness about young onset Parkinson's in India.
If you are a young person with Parkinson's, support group is here.
So if there is anyone in India who's been diagnosed with early onset or young onset Parkinson's, do contact us, and we'd love to have you be a part of our young onset program and our Power Pact group. Thank you. Okay, so that was just a bit about the Parkinson's PDMDS's young onset program. And now if we can take some questions. Yeah. Okay. Okay, there are some, because they found that you're an ophthalmologist, there are some questions regarding that. Would you like to take some on visual acuity? Does Parkinson's affect visual acuity, and what are the most, is it a common symptom of young onset Parkinson's?
It doesn't affect visual acuity, but many people, they have this photophobia. I've seen people, I've just read that photophobia, many people squeeze their eyes. Maybe it's because of the muscles of the eye also get stiff or something. They have that, but visual acuity will not get affected.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next question is, could you all both, in fact, talk about the role of your family members in your journey with young onset Parkinson's? So if we could have you, Dr. Shanthipriya and Omotola, talking about what was the role that your family played.
I had a great family support and friend support. Without them, I wouldn't have been able to do what I'm doing now and achieve what I've done already. Because my foundation is started by a group of us friends who has some adversity in one way or the other. It's a teamwork. And without your support of your family and friends, I don't think so you can achieve anything on your own.
Omotola, add something? Yeah.
I completely agree with Priya. There is absolutely no way I could do even half of the things that I do without the support of my family. I'm not saying that it's impossible, because not everybody obviously will have family support. But I'm saying that it really does go a long way to know that you have the backing and the support. So to the family members that are on this call, I want them to understand that they play such a crucial role in our being able to live well and to thrive with this illness.
Okay, thank you so much. I think this question is for you, Omotola. Pratima is asking, what does a Parkinson's advocate mean?
It's very simply put, Parkinson's advocate is somebody who takes up the cause of Parkinson's disease and speaks publicly about it, tries to represent the needs and to be a voice for the disease, trying to make people more aware of it. And it's not a role that is for a select group of people. Anybody can choose to be an advocate and just start spreading awareness, start talking about the illness, and start to represent the needs of those who are impacted by the disease.
Yeah, thank you. I was expecting this question, and Dr. Shanthipriya, this is for you. I think it's a common question, which is how risky or safe is, it's a dilemma that young onset people face. How risky or safe is your deep brain stimulation? Why did you particularly go for it? And if you could elaborate a little more about your experiences post the DBS.
Post DBS, I underwent, the decision was taken because, as I told you, I had a lot of side effects of the medications and my medications were not working. Only 1 hour it will work and then I'll go off. Lot of fluctuations between the on and off periods. So that's why I took the decision of, and I trusted my doctor, my neurosurgeon. That you have to trust your doctor. And post DBS, my quality of life has definitely improved. I don't have a single day of dystonia. I don't have any motor fluctuations. I was on 15 pills a day before DBS. Now I'm only 3 pills a day. So definitely it has improved my quality of life. Before I used to wake up every day with dystonia and stiffness and rigidity. But now, even without medication, I can manage for some time. So definitely it is a life changer.
So definitely has had a positive effect.
Yeah.
And
it depends upon patient to patient also.
Yes.
And you need to have the willpower to undergo that because it's an awake surgery.
Correct. Great. Omotola, people want to know whether you had ever thought of DBS or have you tried anything other than medications to help with your symptoms?
Yes, I have thought about DBS, and particularly now because my tremors are very bad and they're not responding to medication. But I'm speaking with my doctor, and we would like to try some more advanced therapies first before going to DBS. I think because I'm 40 years old, I would rather push that as a last resort. And my tremors are affecting me mostly from an aesthetic point of view. You know, people look at me funny. It's not really like my hands are shaking now, but if I hold a glass, they're steady, right? So it's really, and it's not impacting my quality, my life. It's impacting how people view me. And if I'm able to overcome that, I'm not, you know, if I can push DBS as far back as I can, and that's what I'm trying to do. I hope that makes sense.
Okay, thank you. First, let me tell you, you look amazing. I didn't realize you were 40. You look amazing for 40. So like we need to learn that secret from you as well. But coming to the tremors that you just spoke about, Shri has asked when you have to attend meetings or calls, how do you handle tremors or like, you know, slow speech? I think this is really important for people who are still working or, you know, how do you handle it?
For me, it starts, you know, and Priya mentioned this earlier on, it starts with acceptance. I've accepted that this is the way that I look. This is, you know, until I can find a suitable means of dealing with it. I've accepted that my tremors are there. Sometimes my speech is slurred and sometimes I speak funny. I think in being, and that's why when I do any of these talks, one of the first things I do is let people see my hands. Take so that, you know, it's out there. You know, I say, if I meet somebody, I say, well, I have Parkinson's disease, that's why my hands are shaking. And so just getting it out there of the, you know, at the beginning of the conversation seems to help me. But it, you know, I have accepted that this is part of me on this journey for now. And because I've accepted it, then I can explain it to other people and move on from it.
Thank you so much for that. The next question is, this is from Neelam, who says that sometimes the syndopa, which is the levodopa that we get in India, it activates immediately and sometimes it takes a lot of time to activate. Is that something you all face, and have you all been able to did you all do anything to make it more smoother and more predictable, the effect that the medications have on your symptoms?
With time you develop like that. Motor fluctuations, it's called, the on and off periods are unpredictable. But the syndopa works better if you're taking with tonic water. That's what I learned. Quinine, that helps, and with lime juice. So it acts immediately if you take it with some things like lime juice or tonic water or soda.
Okay. Yep.
So I agree. You can't see this, but this is leftover of orange juice mixed in with my dispersible. I take Madupar, dispersible forms of it. So that helps with sometimes, not all the time, but it helps with absorption, according to my doctor.
And don't take any, take it in the empty stomach and at least half an hour before food or 1 hour after food, because the proteins will react with absorption of syndrome.
Yeah. And definitely, if you're making any changes, do consult your neurologist.
Yeah, neurologist.
Especially if you're having the dispersible form of levodopa with the vitamin C. So please do talk to your neurologist as well about that.
We don't get it in India.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think people may put levodopa and vitamin C. That's why I just thought I'd put a disclaimer up.
Yeah.
Okay. The next question is, and I think this was for both of you all, how do you all deal with thoughts of uncertainty of the future in terms of, your deteriorating physical abilities or ability to work? I think that causes a lot of anxiety for a lot of people. So how do you deal with this? I don't know what the future is going to bring.
Shall I go first?
Yeah, sure.
I don't think about the future. I always think about the present. And I want my today to be better than yesterday, this year better than last year. So I never think about the future. I always focus only on the present now. Today, what I'm doing. Today, what I've done. So that is the way. There is uncertainty, but I don't think about that at all. I've shut off my mind from that. That's how I deal with it.
Thank you. And you, Omotola?
So it's fun. It's something similar, and it's really funny that Priya said something about better than yesterday, because I actually had a slide but I took it out at the last minute, called Better Than Yesterday. And like Priya, what I do is I try not to focus on tomorrow. I try to focus on what I can do today. But when I do focus on tomorrow, all I try to tell myself is, if I can be a better person mentally tomorrow than I was today, whether that means deciding that I would not, maybe I will run an extra mile when I exercise, or choosing to be more empathetic to somebody, making that decision to be a better person than I was today makes me feel that I am progressing in life, in spite of the fact that my Parkinson's challenges are increasing. And there was one thing that I learned when I was in college. Our English teacher used to give us progressively harder exams. And he told us at the beginning that the first exam he gave us, which we all failed, was going to be the easiest exam he would ever give us. And we were all like, well, then we're all going to fail this course. But then he said something. He said, don't be worried about that. Even though the challenges of the course will get difficult as time goes on, you will learn, and your ability to cope with those difficulties will also improve. So it doesn't matter that the course is getting difficult. You're adapting and you're becoming more capable of handling those challenges. So that's how I look at Parkinson's disease. I will deteriorate, but my resilience and my perspective will continue to help me manage that deterioration.
Thank you so much. The next question actually is for you, Omotola. Faisal said that you speak with effort, but fluently. Any specific method that you use when you speak to make it fluent?
People do not understand how much time and effort that goes into my preparation for these talks. Like, it is very challenging and difficult for me cognitively, multitasking. And then when you add the tremors that come with the nerves of speaking publicly. But practice. I spend a lot of time trying to rehearse my talks. It doesn't come naturally. It's practice. It's not a skill. It's not a talent.
Yeah, thank you. The next question actually is for Dr. Shanthipriya, and I think maybe you'd understand this also a bit more. How do you deal with the anxiety of people noticing your tremors at work, especially when in a small town and you are judged and there's a lack of awareness? Is it always that you tell people that you have Parkinson's, or how do you deal with it?
The first 7 years, before my complete acceptance, I used to mask my symptoms really well. Then, as I told you, 2018, when there was a complete acceptance to it, I never bothered. I tell people I have this. This is the way I walk. Like Omotola said, this is the way we are.
Okay.
We live for ourselves and not for the others.
Yeah.
You have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in yourself. Complete acceptance gives that belief in yourself.
Great. But is there a right time to announce to everyone? I think that's one of the questions here. Is there a right time to announce to everyone that you have Parkinson's? Or is there a certain, like you come to a point in your life? I know both of you all mentioned turning points in your life, but is there a right time to announce is what people would like to know.
I feel you have to first completely come in terms with the disease with yourself before telling others. But your close family members like your husband, spouse, or your parents, they help a lot in that complete acceptance.
Omotola, would you like to add anything to that?
Yes, I agree with Priya. I think you need to be ready to deal with the consequences of your coming out and telling people. So for the first few weeks, the only person that knew was my husband. I didn't tell my parents because I knew it'll impact them and they would be very upset and they would be very sad. I wasn't mentally ready to deal with their sadness, their disappointment or despair on top of mine. So I waited until I was mentally prepared to be able to handle that before speaking with them. And then the same thing in terms of telling other people, you just need to be ready to react to you need to be ready to deal with people's reactions. And you're the only one that can decide when that will be.
I think that's a very important point. And I think that's something that people do bring up. And that's why they do hide their diagnosis from a lot of people, is that they don't know how to respond to the reaction of their loved one. So that's very interesting. But people are also asking, is there, they can't find the right words to actually explain to people that they have young onset Parkinson's. So I know you mentioned that you do, at the beginning of your meetings, you say that you do have the tremor and you have Parkinson's, but is it just that, or do you have like a paragraph or something that you say to people when they ask you what's wrong, or why you're walking differently or why you have the tremor?
I don't have a paragraph per se, but I think for me, because I've been in the public space for almost 4 years since my diagnosis, I think if it helps people, they should have something that they write down. But generally, like if I met you, I would because the first thing that people do when they see me is they glance at my hands because my hands are shaking. And I say, look, I have young onset Parkinson's disease. Do you know what that is? Or do you want me to explain it to you? And then I go into a little spiel, if I have the time, about it's a neurological condition that affects the brain and it impacts my movement, dopamine loss. But it really depends on the person that I'm speaking to. It's not everyone that you'll have that much time to be able to have that explanation with. But because I've done it so often, it comes off the top of my head naturally.
Yeah, that's great. And you, Dr. Shanthipriya, is there a way that you...
It's the same as what Omotola said. Even whoever knows, first I introduce myself as young onset Parkinson's disease warrior. And I tell them about what is Parkinson's. It's a way of spreading awareness also.
And that's greatly needed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think, I think it's important, for us as the people dealing with this illness for me, I don't know if it's cultural because I'm Nigerian, but for the first few months or years, I had to tell myself that I hadn't done anything wrong to deserve this illness. So there was no reason for me to be ashamed of my tremors. I didn't cause this. I didn't do anything. So once I was able to get out of my head that this is not my fault, then it's your problem if you don't know how to handle my tremors. It's not my issue anymore.
Yeah.
That's great. You know, a lot of people in India also feel it's their bad karma, which has made them get young onset Parkinson's, and they're constantly trying to find the reason why they got young onset Parkinson's. And it's really important to be like, it's nothing that you've done
Yeah.
to get it. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Actually, that only causes more anxiety and stress, and your symptoms become more when you try to find out why you got it. So we have to just accept it and move on.
Yes. We're just going to take a few more questions because we have quite a few coming in. And one is related to financial needs. So I think for a lot of young people with Parkinson's, fear of being able to keep their jobs and manage their family and their medication. Is there anything that you've done to plan for your future financially? Any, Dr. Shanthipriya?
Because I'm not the breadwinner of the family, I don't have this. But my paintings, everything is, the proceeds go to my foundation. Now I want only to help people, I need support and finance, everything. And for my neuro rehab center.
Omotola?
But the people with young onset, because many members of my foundation, they face a lot of unemployment.
Correct.
I try to place them in known people's offices. That's what I do. But there should be more awareness among the corporates, everything. That's also I'm trying, but to create more awareness that you can, it's not that they should not be given, they should be given the job which they can do.
Okay. That's great. And I think our organizations can work together to help corporates understand the difficulties that young people with Parkinson's have. And Omotola, have you come across, people in the UK or in Africa or in your interactions who have lost their jobs and, are really struggling financially?
Yes, and I think this goes back to the first question when somebody said, what does a Parkinson's advocate do? This is one of the things that we do, is to highlight these types of issues so that people are aware of it, so that government and policymakers are aware of it. I have two perspectives. One, I live in the UK, where access to healthcare and benefits are largely independent of my socioeconomic status. So it is not something that I have seen much of here. Obviously, in Nigeria, where I'm from, and the other parts of Africa, these issues are more prevalent, they're more obvious, and it is up to the NGOs and the charities, which was one of the reasons why I established Parkinson's Africa, which was to support, and I don't just mean support by providing access to information or resources, I mean providing access to free medication for people who are not able to afford it. It is the jobs of the NGOs and the charities to be able to take that, to be able to fill that gap. And it is our jobs as advocates to raise those issues on people's behalf.
Yep, that is very important. Thank you, Omotola. Dr. Shanthipriya, this is for you. And it says that, how do you disclose your diagnosis of Parkinson's to your children? How much information do you give them without making them anxious about the condition, but still knowing that, a parent is dealing with the condition like Parkinson's?
It was easy for me because my when I disclosed to my son, he was doing his medicine.
Oh, okay.
So it was easy for me because he's already learned about, he has a knowledge of what is Parkinson's, or somewhat knowledge. So it was easy for me. Actually, I didn't disclose, my husband only disclosed him. So
I can add, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So it was easy for me because all three of us are doctors, me, my husband, and my son. It was easy for me. But many people have that difficulty in disclosing but I never went, I didn't have that difficulty.
Omotola, have you
Omotola?
people who've had to
Yes, my son was 9 and my daughter
Your
was
son?
7 when I got diagnosed. And it was important for us, my husband and I, to let them understand what was going on in a child-friendly manner. This was 5 years ago. My son is now 14 and my daughter is going to be 12. But then they already saw my hands shaking, right? So they knew there was something going on. And so, when I got diagnosed, we sat them down and we said, Mom has this illness, it's Parkinson's disease, and it makes her shake and it may cause some difficulties along the way. But as a family, we'll get through this together. Now, this was when my symptoms were not nearly as noticeable as they are now. Now I have rigidity, stiffness, my speech is slurred sometimes, my gait is impaired, there's apathy and all the other things. The way I have chosen to deal with it, is use humor. That way, just literally 2 days ago, I recorded a speech and my mouth was moving funny and the muscles, I could visibly see that I wasn't talking properly. And then I showed the video to my daughter in the morning, and I was laughing at her, and I made it a joke. I was like, look at how funny my mouth looks like. This is ridiculous. Like, who talks like this? And she started laughing as well. So that's the way I present it to them. I try to find the humorous side of it, and it's easier for me, and it doesn't leave any scars for them.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think that's something that a lot of young parents think about, and disclosing to an adult is one thing, but they're always looking for resources or ways to disclose it to younger people. So thank you so much for sharing. William Brown has said that he's just been diagnosed several weeks ago with Parkinson's, and the non-motor symptoms are the worst for him. He is on medications, but are there any other coping skills that you use? He hasn't specified which non-motor symptoms, but any coping skills or any strategies that you could share with him, Omotola?
For me, I would, when I went through a very dark period where I had very intense anxiety and very, very intense depression. This is what I talked about earlier when I said sometimes resilience means knowing that you can't fix the problem yourself, but being determined to find somebody who can. I would suggest that if he has access to a professional, which was what I ended up doing, he should see somebody, like if it's something to do with like anxiety or depression. But again, without knowing the particular non-motor skill symptom, it will be hard
Difficult.
to.
I do understand that. But if you do have questions, there is a lot of information available also, and you can talk to your neurologist for that. Dr. Shanthipriya, you have met, as you said, you've gone to Kyoto for the World Parkinson's Congress, and you have met other international people with Parkinson's. Do you feel there's a difference between young onset, people who are diagnosed with young onset Parkinson's in India as opposed to Western countries?
No, the symptoms are same, the stories are same, and how they accept and this thing is also the same. But each story is different. Each person's Parkinson's is unique. See, I never had much tremors, but I had dystonia, rigidity, this. So each one inspired me a lot.
Okay. Omotola,
but the access to medical care is better there. In actually South India, in Chennai, we don't even have a movement disorder specialist until last year. They're only neurology. I used to go to Bangalore for my movement disorder specialist consultation. So still people are not aware, but the facilities are better there.
And what about awareness at the community? Do you feel that affects your ability to accept and reveal your diagnosis? I think people are more aware about Parkinson's in the West as opposed to India. So do you feel that affected you in any way?
Yeah, when I was diagnosed, there was no support group. I was not aware of any support group. I didn't have anybody to share my symptoms with. But now it is much better, on par with the Western countries. Because there's more awareness. You're doing a good job. There are a lot of individual organizations who are doing a very good job. So I feel there's more awareness on Parkinson's now.
Definitely. And Omotola, have you faced that with, I mean, I don't know if you go back to Africa and Nigeria often, but have you seen any difference between people in the UK and in Africa?
I think the awareness that Priya spoke about is absolutely spot on. I haven't traveled to Nigeria since COVID, obviously, but I was there in 2019, and I work with many people across the continent of Africa who speak about the stigma that is associated with Parkinson's disease because of the misconceptions, because of the misinformation, because of the misunderstandings surrounding this illness. So awareness is very vital. If somebody sees me shaking here, although it looks funny, they're not necessarily thinking that I'm possessed or that I'm under a curse and I need to be exorcised. So that's where the awareness comes into place, helping people identify and understand what Parkinson's looks like and not stigmatizing it.
Thank you.
That is one difference between the Western and India, I feel. The social stigma is more here. But in the Western countries, I feel they accept better, and the social stigma is not that much as it is in India.
Do you feel that, Omotola, that there's less stigma associated with Parkinson's in the UK?
100%. I've lived in Nigeria, and now I live here in the UK. There is no question that in many parts of Africa, because of lack of understanding and awareness and education, stigma is, Parkinson's disease is much more stigmatized. Think about it. We tend to stigmatize things that we don't understand, we don't know what's causing it, and we don't know how to fix it. So, for many people, especially in remote parts of Africa, they don't know that this is a brain disease. It looks like something that is a spiritual issue that needs spiritual attending to, per se.
And here I've been personally mistaken for being drunk also. So that many people think you're drunk.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Because of the tremor and the walk.
Tremors and the slowness of the walk, the gait disturbances.
Right.
So I have faced this personally.
Oh, wow. And I know a lot of people in India as well have faced it as well. And, and I think it all boils down to the lack of awareness and sensitization in the community. And that's definitely something that we should look at. So just the last two questions. And this question is, I think, for both of you all. I know, Dr. Shanthipriya, you spoke a lot about exercise, but people would like to know, what do you do to manage your Parkinson's? Is it only exercise, or what are the main components of your holistic approach to managing your Parkinson's? Like diet or anything else that you have changed?
Diet is a well-balanced diet. They say that non-dairy, if you avoid dairy products, is better in Parkinson's, but still that's not conclusive. But I feel a well-balanced diet, exercise more than 150 minutes a week. Do whatever exercise you feel like doing. But studies say that high-intensity interval training, those kind of exercise really delay the progression. I have personally I do a lot of high-intensity interval training, so I know that it is true. And then yoga, meditation, Tai Chi is really good. Whatever you said on your program, everything is good. And they say Mediterranean diet also. But I feel a well-balanced diet, and just avoid taking your medications with food. It has to be taken only with empty food. It's just few lifestyle modifications.
And you, Omotola, do you have a specific regime that you follow every day?
I don't have a specific regime. I do try to get in as much exercise as possible. I think exercise is very important. I think all the things that Dr. Priya mentioned are vital in terms of diet, stress management. But I think one thing that many people don't really look at is really the power of the mind. I feel like my body is broken. There's nothing I can do about that. I have the dopamine producing cells in my brain are not in the quantities they need to be. But I genuinely believe that my spirit and my mind is whole. And I believe that my mindset can compensate in many regards for the parts of my body that are broken. So I spend a lot of time, like I mentioned in my talk, building up myself, inundating my mind with images and videos and audios of inspirational messages telling me that I can do it and that I can, that I have the ability. So like just naturally, like I don't believe that I can't do it. It's not pride and it's just the way that I've conditioned, it's conditioning. I've conditioned my mind to believe that I can.
Thank you. And that was actually going to be my last question, because they were saying that you're all about so confident, and how did you all build that confidence? Can you give some tips and strategies or resources that you have looked at? Because it's easy to say build confidence and resilience, but what is the first step? And, if you could just share that as a final answer to the question.
Okay, so just real quick to add on to that, I listened to Tony Robbins, Gary Vee. I Google, inspirational quotes on faith. I'm a Christian. I read the Bible. I listen to Bishop T.D. Jakes, and just really anyone. And I surround myself with anyone who will tell me that I can. And I believe that my mind is able to take me where my body can't. And so I feed my mind. It's my, I think it was T.D. Jakes who said it, that our minds are our most precious resource. And I try my best, to preserve my mind.
Thank you. And Dr. Shanthipriya, would you like to add to that?
Yeah. For me, my art and writing has been a real coping mechanism, because when I'm writing or doing art, my brain is free. I just feel it just flows, both my writing and this thing. It's a way of coping, and art has been a proven therapy also. Art therapy is very good for any neurological condition. And as Omotola said, you need to train your mind first, mindset. I listen to also a lot of inspirational quotes, Robin Sharma quotes and his videos. So all that is just to prepare yourself, your mind to overtake your body. So that's the power of your mind. And you have to tap that by the way you can.
Yeah, thank you so much. On that note, we're going to end today's session, but thank you so much for sharing your stories. I think it's been an eye-opener, not only for me, but for other people who are living with young onset Parkinson's. There's not a lot of information available. Thanks to people like you all, there is now a lot more information on young onset and a lot more focus on young onset Parkinson's. So thank you for that. And we hope that we can have more interactions like this with, people with young onset Parkinson's from all over the world, sharing their stories and their experiences. Because I think definitely what people have learned today is resilience, mind over body, and, just the self-belief that they can do it. And y'all are shining examples of that. So thank you so much for being here and inspiring us on a Sunday. So thank you once again. Do have a lovely day. But before we end, I would just like to share with everyone that International Dance Day is on the 29th of April. So do join in for our dance-a-thon. It's at 5 o'clock. We'll be sending out the information of how you can register on social media and on WhatsApp groups. So please do contact us if you'd like to participate in International Dance Celebration. And for those of you who are young onset, people with young onset Parkinson's, and you'd like to join our Power Park program, which is a program for young people with Parkinson's, you can contact us via email or phone. You can look at our website. We also have Facebook and Instagram and lots of educational and exercise videos on our YouTube channel. So once again, thank you, Dr. Shanthipriya, and thank you, Omotola Thomas, for joining us today. And thank you to our audience for sending in your questions and for listening to the whole webinar so patiently. Do have a good rest of the evening.
Thank you. Shake off and move on.
Thank you very much.
Yes, follow Shake Off and Move On and Pakistan and PD Avengers and the SAAB Foundation as well. You know, together we can really move better.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.